All right, let's get right into it. Landing an airplane. It's probably the most skillful, most critical part of any flight. It's this beautiful, delicate dance between a massive, speeding machine and a very solid strip of pavement. So how do they pull it off safely, every single time? There's this old saying in the world of aviation that just nails the stakes perfectly. No matter what happens up in the air, you have to come back down. It's not just a clever line, it's the fundamental truth that shapes a pilot's entire way of thinking. So that's the big question, right? How do you take an aircraft hurtling through the sky and turn all that energy, all that speed and altitude into a gentle, rolling stop? It's really the ultimate energy management puzzle. Well, the answer, the real secret sauce behind almost every good landing, isn't about luck or some last-second dramatic maneuver. It's all about a super disciplined procedure called the stabilized approach. Okay, so what does that actually mean? A stabilized approach is when the pilot gets the plane perfectly set up for landing way in advance. We're talking gear down, flap set, speed just right, and gliding down at a constant, predictable angle. The whole idea is to make those final moments of the flight totally calm and under control with absolutely no surprises. And here's the really cool part. The visual trick pilots use. They use the runway itself as their guide. As they're coming down on that perfect, stable path, the runway looks like a trapezoid that's just getting bigger and bigger. The key is that its shape stays the same. It's just scaling up. It's kind of like when you're driving on a long, straight road. You look way down the road to keep your car centered in the lane. But the second that trapezoid starts to look different, that's an instant alarm bell. If the runway starts to look longer and skinnier, the pilot knows, uh-oh, I'm getting too high. If it looks like it's getting shorter and wider, they know they're too low. It's this simple visual geometry that keeps them locked onto the perfect glide path. So, once that stable approach is locked in, the landing itself isn't just one single action. It's actually a series of 5 distinct phases, a step-by-step playbook for bringing the plane down safely. The whole thing is like a carefully choreographed performance. It starts with the base leg, which gets the plane lined up. Then you've got the final approach, where you're really dialing everything in. The round out, or the flare, is that gently nose-up move right before the wheels touch. Then, boom, touchdown. And finally, the after-landing roll, where you're slowing down on the runway. And here's the key. Each one of those 5 phases is just another step in that big energy management game we talked about. From way up in the air down to a complete stop, the pilot is just methodically and carefully getting rid of altitude and speed until there's none left. Of course, the real world is messy, right? It's pretty rare you get a day with 0 wind. One of the biggest challenges is the crosswind, when the wind is blowing across the runway instead of straight down it. And for that, pilots have some clever tricks up their sleeves. They've basically got too many techniques. First is the crab method. The plane is literally flying a bit sideways, with its nose pointed into the wind to stay on a straight path over the ground. Then, right at the last second, the pilot kicks the rudder to straighten out. The other way is the wing low method, where they line the nose up with the runway but dip one wing down into the wind. This stops the plane from drifting sideways. Both work, but man, they require some serious skill. But what happens if things just aren't right? The approach isn't stable, maybe another plane is slow to exit the runway. What then? Well, that's when a pilot uses their single most important safety tool. It's not a failure, it's the escape plan. It's called a go-around. It's simply the decision to abort the landing, power up, climb away safely, and loop around to try again. I want to be really clear about this. It's a completely normal, routine maneuver. Good pilots do it anytime they feel an approach isn't absolutely perfect for safe landing. And the procedure is lightning fast and decisive. First, full power. Stop the descent and start climbing. Second, attitude. Pitch the nose up for that climb. And third, configuration. Clean up the plane by pulling in the flaps and landing gear to reduce drag. It's power, attitude, configuration. Bam, bam, bam. And this really gets to the core of what it means to be a professional pilot. The FAA itself warns against this. Pride has no place in the cockpit. The belief that going around is some kind of failure, well, it's just wrong. A go-around isn't a failure. It's a sign of excellent judgment. It's the smart, safe call. So let's kind of wrap this all up. What's the big takeaway here? Landing an airplane isn't about luck. It's a super disciplined procedure. That stabilized approach is the foundation for everything. Pilots have to be ready to adapt to whatever the weather throws at them. And maybe most importantly, their best, safest tool is always the choice to not land and just go around. But the process isn't even over when the plane is parked at the gate. The sign of a true professional is what they do next. After every single landing, whether it was perfect or a little bumpy, a good pilot takes a moment to think it over. What went right? What could I do better next time? It's this constant drive to learn and improve. And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? Landing a plane is all about taking a high-stakes, high-energy situation and bringing it to a safe, controlled conclusion. It takes discipline, it takes adaptability, and it takes brutally honest self-assessment. What if we all took a second to do that after our own challenging landings in life?